I know at some point every human being would have considered or contemplated, is there something outside of ourselves that is greater than themselves? And through the passage of time and through the passage of eons and epochs, humanity has come to assert different names and different titles to that which we in essence call God. So what is God? Who is God? Do you even believe in God? Well, for the record, I believe that in simple word terms, it's very difficult to describe what God is or who God is. I feel that the first place one should start is to acknowledge that God is spirit and not physical. Now, here it is. There are many names for God. For instance, some people call God the Most High. Some people call God the creator of all. Some call him the great architect of the universe. Some call it the spirit. Some call it source. Whatever name, this thing that is beyond name has been with us, in us, around us. In terms of me, personally, I believe in a God. I call God source. I call God the Most High. Whatever fits at that particular juncture to best describe his manifestation at that time. Now, here it is in the construct that I have come to learn. I have come to realize and learn that there are 7 basic dimensions or 7 realms. And we humans, we in the physical reside on the 3rd dimension. And in the construct of my belief, that which I hold to be source, God, the Most High, dwells on a level above the 7th realm. That would be called the real world. That would be called the true world, where that being resides. Now, here it is my belief that all of this reality resides within that being, within that spirit, within that thing we call God. All planets, all galaxies, all universes, all dimensions, all realms. Now, here it is. I know other teachers may say that there are different rank structures of gods. There are demigods, there are standard gods, and there are archonic gods, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into that aspect of metaphysics today. I just want to get into basically sharing with you my interaction with that which I define as God. Now, here it is, the Bible, the Quran, and all of these holy books ascribe different manifestations to this thing that we call God, and as a result of man basically solidifying his philosophies as to what God is, we've come to this place where we are now, basically man to man, fighting man to man over religion. It is my belief that God sits outside of religion. He sits outside of belief systems. It is my belief that God is in everything, everyone. Now, whether the soul chooses to acknowledge him or not, that is up to the individual soul. I realize that some souls are on a left-hand path journey where they want to remove themselves from that which we define as God and basically become gods themselves. I am not here to judge. That is to, like I say, to each his own. I'm just here to discuss my aspect. What I've come to find is God or source basically speaks to us when we are in alignment, and a part of this alignment is chakral alignment, spiritual alignment, and so on and so forth. And I understand what some of the prophets of old went through, and I understand what they were trying to basically speak into reality, or in terms of getting others to understand what their experience was. in terms of my first experience with that which I deem or define as God, it was not until I was a man of 25 years old that I had a personal experience. And it is a personal experience because here it is. If I try and tell you what this experience was, you might say I might have been crazy or I might have been tripping at the time that it happened. But the first real encounter I had with God was on a trip that I made to Jamaica. And it was a spiritual encounter like any other. And no, I was not high on marijuana or anything of that nature. I went out into the evening just for an evening walk. It would have been about 9:30 thereabouts. And all of a sudden I heard this voice. Now you might say might be tripping, but no, I know I wasn't tripping. I heard this voice, and the voice in essence called my name. And it was in my head, outside of my head, around me, all at once. Now, what I experienced was, in the midst of this, the night sky opened up like one of the old-fashioned movie screens where they had the big curtains that would draw apart. And in the midst of that, I heard this voice saying, "Let me show you something." And this movie screen opened up in the sky, and it started to show me my life from birth. It started to show me my reality from being inside of my mother's womb, and then going through the birth process, and then seeing all the different things that transpired within my life up to that point. And it had a very profound effect on me. It shook me to my very core. And it started me on a journey, a religious journey in the beginning. I went into the church. Before I went into the Christian church, I explored other religions. I explored the Muslim faith. I explored the Rastafarian faith. I explored the Buddhist faith. I explored a whole host of other faiths, and I felt that I must be called to do what was traditional, which was to teach in a church. So I went into the church, and I was even ordained a minister in the church, and I performed in that capacity and in all aspects of the church. It even got to the point where I took over one church for a period of time, but what I found was, even though I was able to teach individuals during that church experience, I realized that experience with God, and there were other experiences that I experienced along the path. What I found was this experience was not a brain experience, it was a soul experience. This was one of the first times I realized truly that I was not a physical being, and that there was more to me, and that there was more to the universe, and that there was more to life, and everything that I was living up to that point, I started to question. And you take the journey, you go, and you find yourself moving. When I realized that the traditional church system was not answering all of the questions, I found myself moving into the deeper esoteric and the metaphysics. And there I found that answers came. And, it was an interesting journey, and having to go through things of breaking away from belief systems and religious dogma and doctrine. It was very scary and even traumatic to some degree, because here it is, this is something that I was ingrained in. My grandmother took me to church, and this was what it was. I was a good Anglican, ordained in the Anglican church and the whole 9 yards, and even moving on to becoming Pastor Roberts and all of that stuff. But I realized that the spiritual journey was even deeper than that, just that religious thing of going to church every Sunday and going to Bible studies and having retreats and all of this stuff, I realized that which we were supposed to be pursuing and becoming one with was not being addressed fully within that context. And I went deeper. And what it took was me having to go and explore older belief systems like the Hindu faith and things of that nature. And what I realized in studying all of these systems and even getting to the point of studying and looking at the occultic systems such as the lower traditions, the Orisha traditions, and all of these other traditions, the Ifa traditions and so on and so forth, to basically realize that there were certain truths, a thread that ran throughout all of these traditions and belief systems. And what I've come to find is the God that all of these belief systems is pursuing and trying to get you to come to commune with is within. There is the divine spark within that has the ability to connect through that crown chakra, to connect to your creator, to connect to the Most High. Now, people have found themselves pursuing it through different ways, through going through different psalms, going through different songs and praises and all of this different stuff. Basically, this religious system. And here it is, and even studying these systems, you realize that these systems changed over a period of time. You know, some would say that maybe I'm a Gnostic and I'm in pursuit of just the gnosis or the wisdom of all of this. I would say that I am simply a man who has been introduced to his soul, and his soul has been introduced to his creator. And in the midst of being introduced to my creator, I've been introduced to deeper mysteries or mystery schools or rites of passage or rites of initiation. And what it has done, it has allowed me to perceive that which most would define as God in a deeper, more meaningful way. Now, yeah, I don't expect any individual to understand my journey, and if you do, I am grateful. That is really what this channel is really about. Basically, sharing some of the things that I encountered along the way in my journey, and basically allowing you to have a little insight into my life. You know, because in the pursuit of the divine, one literally has to reject all of what one was taught. One has to reject all of one's acculturation and sociological biases and leanings. One has to truly go within and develop a true inner standing and a soul standing of what this life or liberty is really all about. You know, things like being vegetarian and things like meditating and things like astral projecting and all of these things are just nuances of the one truth. And the one truth is that God is, and you have a means of communing with him in a very personal way, and more so than in a personal way, literally to walk in the divine energy. You know, I laugh when I hear Christians talk about a God who was removed from them, but I want to talk to you about a God who is with you, and a God who not just is with you, but a God who truly cares about you, and more so than moving in this whole notion of fear. That was one of the things that I had difficulties with, the whole notion of fear. How can you fear that which is your creator. You see, the whole thing is we have misconstrued ego, flesh, with the nature of God. God, G-O-D, generator, organizer, and D, destroyer. Everything that is created goes through cycles of birth, life, and death. And we are no different. The only aspect that is immortal is the soul. And we sometimes get the soul confused with the body, the ego, the flesh. And that is why we suffer the way we do. We suffer because we are attached to the body, we are attached to the ego. And it is only when you can detach from the body and the ego, because otherwise you'll be living a life that is a lie. One of the reasons why I decided to grow my beard, for instance, was to basically detach from the old personality that was me. And here it is. That old personality was always clean shaven. That old personality was always military cut and ship shape. But this person, or this manifestation that you're seeing and talking with or interacting with through video, is somebody different. And that is why I carry the beard. There'll come a time when I might even cut the beard. But until that time, I'll just continue to talk about the God that I know. I don't expect you to believe the God that I serve, but it is simply this. The God that I deal with is within me, not outside of me. That's the best way that I can put it. This is Doc, just simply talking about God.